Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Brendan and welcome back to the channel, and today we have some of the biggest crypto news that we've received in a very long time. To start things off, we have Google partnering with Coinbase to allow for cryptocurrency payments. We have one of the largest firms in the world, BNY Mellon, launching Bitcoin and Ethereum custody services. We'll talk about just how big they are and how big this could be in a moment. But then we also have the SEC probing Bored Ape Yacht Club creator Yuga Labs for a potential SEC investigation as to whether their NFTs are labeled as securities. Now, obviously, this would be a detrimental hit to the entire NFT industry, but there's a lot of good news here, a lot of bad news, and there's a lot of stuff to unpack. So if any of this does interest you at all, then make sure you stick around for the entire length of this video, as there will be important information discussed the entire way through. Now let's start things off by just looking at the chart. Simply, what is happening in cryptocurrency right now? Because we have remained pretty stale and pretty stagnant for the last couple of weeks here, and we haven't seen a lot of movement. And that's because, if you remember from one of my previous videos last week, I talked about how there is this major squeeze forming on Bitcoin, and I wanted to just give a quick update on this before we dive into the news. So the two main things that I'm still very much watching out for on Bitcoin is that it is still in this squeeze. It has not broken out of the parallel channel, and it has not broken out of this descending triangle yet. And so what we've seen is that resistance has been gradually falling on Bitcoin, and we can see a couple different rejection points up here from Bitcoin rejecting this resistance line, and a couple of days ago we saw another rejection from this line, and that's kind of where we left off in the last video. And if you're a part of Crypt Nation, then you would have already gotten the update on this. And if you're not, there's a link to that in the description down below. But to catch everyone else up to speed, what we have here is just resistance gradually falling, and we're continually rejecting this resistance line on Bitcoin, and we're holding the same support level around $18,000. And we've bounced off of this area a couple times, but a descending triangle is more often than not a bearish formation pattern, meaning that it tends to break to the downside in a pretty volatile manner. Now, I say that there's a squeeze here is because there is resistance riding down into support. And so what we're seeing is that the area that's happening inside of this descending triangle is getting tighter and tighter and tighter. And as we do that, pressure is building up here like you're squeezing a water bottle, or you're putting pressure into the top of a volcano. In this instance, it would be in the bottom of the volcano, because a descending triangle would likely break out to the downside. And so what we're seeing here, if I can kind of declutter my chart and get rid of all this, is that pressure is still building. We're still in this squeeze, and we're in the very, very final part of this descending triangle over here. There's not much room left, so I would imagine in the next week, maybe 2 weeks at the most, we see what is going to happen, and I think it's going to be a very volatile move. So if you're not prepared for this one, this is just one of the things to watch out for. And another thing that I've mentioned previously is that if we break out to the upside, immediately I'm looking and saying that, okay, if we do break out and form a higher swing high above, say, $20,500, then immediately that parallel channel is back into play on Bitcoin. And what I can see is that if we go back up to resistance, we rejected previous support over here around $25,500. And if we're going to go back up to anywhere, I see us going back to resistance, because we've gone from this area back down to support, back to resistance, back to support. And I think it'll only be logical that we go back up to support after this. Now, if this were to happen, we've talked about the possibility of a W formation, and I think that's what every bull, wants to see right now for Bitcoin. Now, that's just my short little Bitcoin analysis. Of course, Ethereum's in its own little squeeze, and we'll kind of just briefly take a look at this one. But with Ethereum being in this squeeze, this is a little bit different, because this is a pennant, and it is riding at the absolute bottom part of support right now. And we can see that resistance is falling into support. Support is rising into resistance instead of on Bitcoin, where it just has a flat level of support. Ethereum is seeing a rising level of support. So there's a little bit of a difference here between the Bitcoin and the Ethereum chart. And so with Ethereum being at the very, very bottom of the support line, if there's anywhere where it wants to rally, it certainly is going to be right here. So keep an eye on Ethereum, keep an eye on Bitcoin. There could certainly be some very volatile moves coming, and it's something that everyone needs to be aware of. Now, let's begin to dive into the news of what's happening over here. And if you've stuck around for the news, congratulations. This is going to be a really cool one to cover because Google has selected Coinbase to take their cloud payments as an option of cryptocurrency. Or in other words, essentially Google's partnering with Coinbase to say, hey, we want to accept crypto payments and we want to be the one to partner with you so that you can help us do it. Now, to put this in perspective, the Google Cloud Services, if we just do a quick Google, last year alone, they had about $19 billion in revenue. This represented around 7.5% of Google's total revenue for all of last year. And so this is a really big earner for Google. This isn't like a little nitty gritty where they say, hey, this got us a couple million, 10 million, 15 million. No, this was something that got them almost $20 billion last year in revenue, and nearly 7.5% of Google's total revenue was represented by Google Cloud Services. And so when they are now allowing for cryptocurrency payments to start as early as next year, this is going to be a big thing to watch out for. Now, if you remember, Coinbase just got done partnering with Aladdin from BlackRock to enable a very similar model, not necessarily as a payment services, but they were allowing Aladdin and BlackRock to have access to cryptocurrency through like a direct line. So they essentially get a premium version of cryptocurrency for these high-end BlackRock clients. And so what this means is that if cryptocurrency or if Coinbase or if Google is able to convert even 1% of their $19 billion in revenue last year, which will likely be even higher this year potentially, what they would have is 1% of $20 billion being transacted in cryptocurrency. This would be a very, very bullish thing for crypto. So maybe we'll see some sort of incentives to make Google and to make crypto be more incentivized as a payment method. But again, with this starting next year, if we are going to see, imagine if we see 10% of Google's cloud services paid in cryptocurrency. We're talking about potentially $2 billion in cryptocurrency being transacted as a large form of tech payment. It's a really big deal. And Coinbase has been all over the news in a really, really positive light lately. Now, BNY Mellon is launching their Bitcoin and Ethereum custody service for investment firms, meaning essentially, I guess we'll break this down, but they're extremely large. If we do a quick Google search of how big they are, we're going to learn that they have $2.4 trillion in asset under management, with $46.7 trillion in assets under custody. An extremely large financial firm, likes the which very other few firms are like this, right? Maybe you have BlackRock, you have some other big players, but these guys are one of the largest ones to do it. And we saw with BlackRock getting in, if you remember, we also theorized that if BlackRock is going to set this standard, their high-level competitors are going to have to respond to this. And that's exactly what we're seeing now with BNY Mellon. And so what this means as a custodial service, as a custody service, what this means is that BNY Mellon would be holding the wallets and the seed phrases and the private keys and all of that for these wallets for their customers. So the clients would not have to store and keep like a track record of their private keys, because this would be done as a service of BNY Mellon, which is a good thing for some people, especially if you know that you're prone to losing things, or you feel like you could put it in a very compromisable place. It's not the worst idea, but you have to remember that if you do something like this, not your keys, not your crypto. If you don't have your private keys, then that means that they could freeze your account. They could limit you from withdrawing or sending or doing stuff with your wallet. So there is a limited limitability here, right? Because you're not getting the full access to crypto as it was intended to be used, but you are getting access to BNY Mellon, and this is going to allow the barrier of entry to kind of be removed and eased for a lot of people that might be nervous to get into crypto or not know how to set up a wallet or one of the various things along those lines. So overall, we're talking about a company with over almost $2.5 trillion in asset under management saying, hey, we want to get into crypto, just after BlackRock, a company that has, I I think it was nearly $10 trillion in assets under management, also get into cryptocurrency in a very, very similar fashion. Now, our final news event of the day has to be this Yuga Labs news. Now, everyone is familiar that the SEC has been pouring into the XRP Ripple case, saying, is XRP a security? Is this stuff allowed? Should it be allowed? There's been a whole battle on that. And it looks like the next battle is going to be into ApeCoin. So this is a little bit shocking, but understandable, and let's explain why. So the key legal question here at the center of this probe is, are NFTs securities? In this case, are Bored Apes and Yuga Labs NFTs specifically securities? So because Yuga Labs allow users to get a number of benefits attached to their tokens, there is a question now of, is this even SEC regulated? Is this allowed? And that's kind of what this entire investigation seems to be doing. I think a lot of the part where the SEC is upset here is with how it was initiated, not necessarily with how it's being ran now. So a lot of these tokens, or excuse me, not a lot of these tokens, a lot of these NFTs are giving you benefits. And while the benefits are maybe a slight part of the problem, Yuga Labs has been pretty good in making sure that the way that they work their NFTs and the benefits that come along with them, whether you get cryptocurrency or whether you get a t-shirt or you get access to a club or a party or something like that, for the most part, they've been really good about that. The problem here is saying that the way that the offering was held, potentially the way that people who held Yuga Labs Bored Apes were receiving their ApeCoin tokens at the launch, that could have been one of the problems here. And so what we've seen in response to this is ApeCoin, if we go over to ApeUSD, it's been really, really hitting the hay here. People have been selling it off rapidly, and it fell all the way back down to its support line. And so yesterday alone, if we want to go ahead and actually measure this out, we saw ApeCoin sell off around 9 to 10%. Since then, it has recovered just a tad bit as it has approached support. But this is the big question. Will ApeCoin see a prolonged SEC case? Is it going to get banned from the US? Is it going to be a prolonged SEC case? And, you know, are we going to have to sell off our ApeCoin at the end of the day? So as of right now, we will not have to sell off our ApeCoin yet. That could be something that gets tied in the future if this case does get more serious or more volatile. Then we'll make sure to keep you posted. But as of right now, we don't have to sell off our ApeCoin. We don't have to sell off our NFTs. But if this case does progressively get more serious or even worse, then that could be a reality where we see something like Ripple happen and people are forced to sell off their NFTs or people are forced to sell off their ApeCoin. So yeah, something to at least keep your mind attached to, because they are the largest cryptocurrency that is directly related to an NFT project, and they're also a number of the largest NFT projects are owned by Yuga Labs. So this could be one of those interesting things where it might, in a minor way, impact crypto, but in a major way impact the way that NFTs are done. So with that being said, that is going to round us out, and what a wild ride of a roller coaster today's video was. We had good news, we had bad news, we had pretty neutral news, we had news just coming in from every end of the sector. But if you did enjoy this video and like the content that I make, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. It really does help out the channel a lot. It helps the video get out to more people and helps the community grow. As I said earlier, if you want to have a link to the Crypt Nation crew or to the Crypt Nation team, I'll leave a link to that in the description down below. I'll also flash a little after image up after this video is done. It's a great place to be. I give all of my analysis early over there, and I'm one of the analysts, so it's a great time. And if you want more access to crypto, it's a cool place to be. But as I said, if you're content with the videos, thank you so much for sticking around, and I will see all of you in Friday's video.